All right, Clock Africa fam, let's get into what really happened on Thursday night during Beyoncé's second stop on the Cowboy Carter Tour at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. Now, you'd think that a Beyoncé concert, especially one as hyped as this tour, would go off without a hitch, right? Well, not this time. Instead of headlines about breathtaking performances, vocal slayage, and iconic visuals, the internet exploded with talk about major technical issues that had Queen Bey herself visibly thrown off. Let's be clear, the vibe wasn't right. Fans and eyewitnesses are calling Night 2 a complete disaster, and not in an oops kind of way. From the moment the lights dimmed, things just started going wrong. Screens were glitching, cues were missed, and then came the real shocker. Beyoncé had no stage mark. And if you've been following this tour, you know exactly how serious that is. Let's talk about the robotic arms. These aren't just aesthetic choices. They're massive moving machines used during her performance of Cozy. The visual setup is carefully choreographed. Beyoncé stands in a specific spot while these high-tech arms rotate around her, holding a giant picture frame, creating this otherworldly scene. It's beautiful when it works, but dangerous when it doesn't. And on Thursday, it didn't. Her mark, the spot that tells her exactly where to stand, was missing, gone, forgotten. And you could tell immediately that she knew something was wrong. As soon as those robotic arms started moving, she looked alert, cautious, on edge. She wasn't performing with ease. She was trying to survive the set. Watching her side-eye the machines with every movement, that's not a performance choice. That's a performer trying not to get hurt. Think about that. Beyoncé, the standard-bearer of live performance excellence, was up there dodging industrial machinery on stage in front of tens of thousands. If one of those arms had even slightly clipped her, it could have ended in disaster. And this wasn't just Beyoncé on stage. Her family was in attendance. That adds a whole new layer of pressure. And as much as Beyoncé keeps her cool, we all know she's a perfectionist. Mama Tina has said it before. Beyoncé is the sweetest person off stage, but when it comes to her work, she is fiercely focused. She doesn't tolerate sloppiness, so when her safety is compromised, you can bet she handles it seriously. Reports say she kept her team in the stadium until 6 a.m. for an emergency rehearsal session. That's not extra, that's necessary. Let's pause and ask ourselves, how did this even happen? Forgetting a stage mark in a performance that uses heavy machinery isn't just a mistake. That's a failure in basic show safety. Whether it was a stagehand, a technician, or someone higher up, someone dropped the ball. And we have to talk about what this means for African creatives and production crews who aspire to that level of professionalism. Beyoncé's productions are a gold standard. They reflect a level of Black excellence and global professionalism that we should all study and learn from. But what happens when even the top-tier production gets it wrong? It reminds us that no matter how flashy or high-budget a show is, the human element is still critical, and it must be on point. Some fans on social media even joked that it was a robot uprising, calling it a Terminator moment. Others said it reminded them of the infamous Michael Jackson Pepsi incident where stage pyrotechnics went wrong. It sounds funny until you remember how easily things can spiral from entertainment to emergency. That's how fast it can go left. One wrong cue, one missed marker, and suddenly someone's career or life is at risk. So let's be real. Should someone have been fired? Probably. But here's the twist. Firing people mid-tour isn't simple. These shows require intense rehearsals, familiarity with the production, and team chemistry. Replacing someone on the fly might solve one issue, but create 5 new ones. So Beyoncé had a choice. Discipline the crew and rework the execution, or bring in new blood. According to insiders, she chose to drill the team. No one slept. They practiced that scene until the sun came up. Now let's bring it back to us, Clock Africa style. If you've ever worked on a music video set, a fashion shoot, or even a wedding production here on the continent, you know the pressure of getting things right. Time is money, safety is priceless, and your reputation, that's your whole career. Beyoncé's situation isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a masterclass in taking your craft seriously and holding your team accountable. As for safety protocols, sure, they probably had fail-safes in place. Maybe the robot arms were programmed to stop if they hit resistance. Maybe someone was monitoring everything backstage. But the fact that Beyoncé had to think about her safety mid-performance, that alone is the failure. Artists shouldn't have to think about logistics while entertaining. That's the crew's job. And let's not forget, those robot arms cost thousands. We're talking six figures. That's cutting-edge tech. But expensive equipment doesn't replace human precision. You can't automate care. You can't code accountability. In the end, Beyoncé did what Beyoncé always does. She kept the show going. But her face, her movements, her energy, it told the whole story. She was rattled. She had every right to be. And she made sure it never happens again. So now it's over to you, fam.
Cowboy Carter LA Night 2 staff. Just want to let you know that McDonald's is hiring if you're looking for a new job after disgracing Beyonce's stage yesterday in her production. So, yeah, good luck.
I demand an explanation. Did y'all see this shit? People are calling it a technical issue. I'm calling it an assassination attempt. This was planned, but I sincerely hope that everybody involved was fired. I want the robots fired too. You have to go back and watch the first Terminator. That's how the robot uprising started. The robot arms assassinated Beyoncé, and then the whole world just fell apart.
Y'all, that robot, almost hitting Beyonce. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it reminded me of when Michael stood in the center after the producers told him to, and the sparks went off and caught his hair on fire. That's how easily these issues can start. You want MJ the queen. She looked for that X marks the spot. She said, girlfriend. I hope everybody lost their job.
Y'all know Beyoncé is firing people at this very moment. So we are all leaving the stadium, and I'm about to let y'all know what's been going on at night 2 of Cowboy Carter, which I lost my voice first of all. I had to get some sleep before I can finish this video, but you know who did not get sleep? Beyoncé, because she stayed up all night, and at 6 a.m. somebody has seen her rehearsing the show.
After the robotic arm incident on the Cowboy Carter tour a couple nights ago, where Beyoncé's team did not have her mark clearly placed and the robotic arms came out anyways, Beyoncé kept her team until 6 a.m. rehearsing. And honestly, I think that's the right decision because her family was on stage that night. Here's how I think that night went. A lot of people are wondering if she fired somebody or fired a bunch of people. Well, I think it's possible that whoever was supposed to put the marker there and the technician who ran the queue anyways could have gotten fired and probably should have gotten fired on some level. It's such a hard decision at the end of the day because her family is there, so she has to choose the safest course of action. Now, we don't know if Beyoncé has a backup stage manager, has backup technicians for all of these cues, but this is such a large show, and anybody who's ever done theater or any large scale production like this knows that tech rehearsals can take forever. I believe this cue, the tech rehearsals for that cue probably were endless. That is a big and dangerous cue right there. I'm sure Beyoncé tech rehearsals are insane in the first place. But here's what I think happened. I'm not sure that anybody got fired that night. She would have to make sure that she had backup technicians who knew every part of the show. And because it's such a large show that probably took forever to train a lot of people, that is such a hard decision. I think that either she called somebody up in LA and was like, hey, I need you here tonight to learn my entire show. And she probably just started that night. Or I think this is more likely that she got her crew together, probably scolded them heavily as I would, and rehearsed that cue until 6 a.m. The harsh truth of it is that firing the people responsible could actually put her and her family in more danger. And that sucks. But that is the nature of this beast. But I do hope that somebody got fired and that somebody was prepared. I do hope that's what happened, but I'm just not sure.
As we're talking about the mistakes that came out of the Cowboy Carter tour on Thursday, I think an important thing to remember is that event production, your job is to make it to where the talent does not have to think about production elements or logistics as they are performing beyond what they're supposed to, right? And there were a lot of people in my last video saying like, oh, well, there's like safety mechanisms or precautions or programming in place to prevent things like the arms from hitting her and causing her harm. And, you know, putting her life at risk, so she was fine. And here's my thing, right? Something already went gravely wrong. It needs to be addressed if you get to the point where you have to rely on safety precautions. You don't want to get to that point at all, right? And also, too, as soon as she had to think about that, that was already a mess up. And I agree that you're going to put safety precautions in place in order to make sure that the artist or whoever is performing is not going to be harmed. So I would not be surprised if there was some kind of programming in place to prevent her from being seriously injured, or at least to try to prevent it. So some kind of like stop mechanism. So I don't know the verbiage for it, but it's like as soon as the robot hit something, it would stop. I know those kind of things are a thing. There's also probably somebody monitoring it behind stage, that kind of thing. But the point I was trying to make in my previous video was that it shouldn't get to the point where we're relying on that. We know that they're estimated at 100K each. We know that there's probably some programming in place for the movement of the robots and stuff. So we can like theorize and stuff, but the only people that actually for sure know how those particular robots operate is the production crew and Beyoncé. And the owner of those robots looked freaked out on stage, which is my point. So it doesn't even need to get to that point.